All right, have and have not fans, let's get through the usual promotion. Go ahead and like the video, hit that subscribe button, click the bell notification icon and select all. That way you don't miss out when I post new content, and follow me on social media. Links are in the description below. Woo, this is going to be a touchy video. So, I just already have a feeling the video might be demonetized based on the title alone, but is Jim Cryer someone who could be considered a racist or an elitist? Because aside from Hannah whacking David upside the head with the candlestick, this scene was actually my favorite, yet the most uncomfortable scene to watch in the episode. The Sandy Rihanna scene with Standing, but the scene where it was just David, Jim, and Hannah in the living room waiting for the cops to arrive. My gosh. I feel like everybody did a great job in the scene, but let me just put a disclaimer out there. I know that it's not an unheard of conversation as of recent months in regards to how John Snyder's posts on social media have been received by some people, whether it had to do with like the Confederate flag on the General Lee from Dukes to Hazzard, or certain things in regards to President Trump, or numbers about the mail-in votes for Biden. I'm not one to really let real what do they say, separating the art from the artist, so to speak, or separating the actor from the character. But all I'm saying is I'm going to try to focus more on Jim Cryer in this video, as opposed to the potential image that people have of John Snyder based off of his YouTube, his Twitter, or social media. I'm not really trying to do it. I've never met John Snyder. I would still love to meet the man because I grew up as a kid loving the Dukes of Hazzard, and Jim Cryer is a son of a bitch, but dang it, I love him on the haves and the have-nots. So let me just say, this video is not a John Snyder attack video. I'm only specifically talking about Jim Cryer. I just want to put that out there at the beginning. Once again, John, it would be cool to meet you someday. So I looked up the basic definitions of racist and elitist. Elitist, a person who believes that a society or system should be led by an elite. Or another one, relating to or supporting the view that a society or system should be led by an elite. Essentially, there's a bias there where, not just based on race, but more often so social class, that someone of essentially the haves and the have-nots. A have like Jim doesn't have to lower himself to communicate to the likes of a maid like Hannah, so he feels the need to talk to the help any way that he pleases. Then we move to racist, a person who is prejudiced against another person or antagonizes them based on their membership in a particular racial or ethnic group, typically one that is a minority or marginalized. So essentially, the dictionary difference of elitist and racist is: elitist is biased towards a group of people based on social class. Racist is a sense of bias due to a person's ethnic, group, so to speak. I believe there was a point where Jim stated that I'm a lot of things, but I'm certainly not racist. And Hannah said something, but I could not make out what she said, even with the closed captioning. I think she said something like, "That's the most racist thing to say," or something along those lines, or she said "most racist." I don't know what she said. But either way, David was not comfortable with the way that Jim was talking with Hannah. Now, I feel like, let's talk about David first. I feel like David, there are I can think of 3 reasons why he finally spoke up. Because he straight up said he didn't give a damn about whether or not Jim was offending Hannah. He was speaking up because he was offended based off how Jim was talking to his black maid. Number one, he already stated that Hannah reminds him of his mother, who was also a maid working for white people. So seeing how Jim was treating Hannah was probably a flashback to how, maybe he heard stories of how his mother was treated at work, or hell, we never know. What if David was, when he was younger, walked in on his mother at his job, or excuse me, at her job, and saw how she was being treated by the white people that she cleaned up after. So I feel like that could have been the first reason why he spoke up, because he saw his mother sitting there on that couch being talked to by her white boss. Number two, the fact that he apparently has feelings for Hannah. So by Jim disrespecting Hannah, in his mind, the woman that he apparently has some feelings for, you're disrespecting my woman. That's kind of possibly why he spoke up. Or number three, the fact that he truly felt like, Jim was crossing the line, because like, if you talk to Hannah that way, then that means you feel that way about all black people. And then Jim pretty much flipped the script. I mean, he didn't say these words exactly. He essentially just gave the alibi of, look, you know me, I have sex for anything, blue, purple, black, brown. I'm a lot of things. I'm an elitist, but I'm not being a racist. So essentially, my takeaway, because I've heard some white friends talk to me like this in regret, not how Jim was talking to Hannah, but how Jim was trying to, appease David's feelings about the situation by comforting him. The way that Jim said it, essentially sounded like, David, I'm not racist. Look, you're my friend, right? And you're black, but you're not like Hannah. It's like, you're not like them. You're one of the good ones. That's essentially what he was saying. Not to mention, look at Sandy Malone dating a not black girl, Rihanna. I mean, excuse me, a not white girl, Rihanna. She's black, African American, or somewhere down the line. And even when Candace Young, when she found out who Candace was, oh, that's the one messing around with the president-elect. Damn, she fine. You can be racist. It's like you can date someone of an ethnicity, but then be racist towards their people. That's essentially what Jim is doing. Not to mention, look at how David is being treated by Jim for seasons now. Basically, his lackey, his errand boy, his gopher, go for this, go for that. Jim has never treated David like an equal. There have been times where he showed genuine concern about David, but more often than not, David is not treated as someone on the same level. Hell, there was a scene where Jim actually spoke to Hannah like an actual human. Look, let me break down why I'm upset, why I'm uncomfortable. You're in this house, you're uninvited, you're looking through my personal financial files. If he expressed that level of calmness and cool-headedness and respect for Hannah, if he would have said that at the beginning of the episode instead of flying off at the mouth, calling her out of her name and everything, then Hannah most likely would have been more, I guess you could say, agreeable, and would have explained why she's at Catherine's house, why she's looking through Catherine's document, why she's looking through Catherine's money. Hey, I was given the power of attorney and the executor position. That would have been a conversation that would have prevented about 70% of the conflict in the episode. So when Jim looked over at David and is like, David, am I speaking to her as someone as my equal? Is that good enough for you? My goodness. Looking at Jim Cryer's history, I think the first time that it was kind of brought up that he might be racist was when RK, who I miss because his character added a certain energy to the cast. It was when RK had brought Catherine home from the hotel because she had been drinking too much. And Jim's like, where are you from? Nicaragua. And then it's like, Jim said it back and it's like, oh, you said the N-word? Oh, you're racist. Oh, I'm not racist. So I thought that was the first time it was used because in terms of like Jim being racist, because it was played up for a joke. But then when you get to the season 7 episode, let me go back and pull up the episode title. Episode 6, Mr. Jim. I remember that aired February 11th. That was one of the most problematic episodes of the Haves and the Have-Nots to have ever aired because of the fact that you had an episode like, and I'm not going to say it was filmed and aired on purpose during the time it was February 11th, because, a lot of things happen in regards to like how the seasons were cut up, how many episodes be aired in a given year and whatnot. So in my mind, I would like to think the OWN network wouldn't have aired the episode during Black History Month, because I just remember being so angry after that episode. And then the next morning, just, I hate to say it, but I felt like I was looking for racism in little things, because I remember going to the gas station that morning. It was like 8:30. I was trying to pump gas, and for whatever reason, the clerk inside cut off the machine where I could put my card in. I remember I looked in the, I'm not making this up. I remember going to the Shell station, got out of my car, opened the gas cap, put my card in, and it kept being declined. I looked at the window. The person at the counter was looking at me, and then they looked back down, and I could tell what was going on, because a white person 2 cars down got out of their vehicle, put their card in, and it worked. And I'm like, okay, I see what's going on. They assumed I would steal the gas. I got in my car and drove off. Went to Best Buy an hour later. I was walking around. I remember I had a couple of DVDs, some Pokemon cards that were on sale, and I was approaching the checkout. I remember because there was nobody at the checkout. There was a white dude behind the counter. I kind of gave him the head nod, like, hey, I was going, like I was about to go up there. But before I got to the register, I saw that there was a display next to, but not directly at the door, because there was an entire display of clearance items. Like, oh snap, let me go check this out before I go to the register. So I took a little detour. Before I was walking a straight line to the counter, I took a little detour, and I looked at one side of the display for about a good 20 seconds. So then I walked to the other side, because I'm thinking to myself, yeah, he sees what I'm doing. I'm walking around looking at the display. So when I walked around to the other side and I was out of sight, I heard, hey, are you planning to check out? I'm like, this motherfucker think I'm going to, walk out of the store. And I'm like, yeah, just give me a second. So I checked out and then I left. And I remember just being so mad because of that one episode of the Haves and the Have-Nots, because the whole Mr. Jim thing. You can say you're an elitist, Jim, but when you pull the stuff you were pulling in Mr. Jim and whatnot, that was just a whole new level of, bro, I think low key, you felt a bit too, the way Jim rolls certain words off of his tongue, it's like he's clearly said the N word behind closed doors. He's clearly felt in a privilege. And yeah, I feel like there have been times in this show where Jim Cryer has come across as racist, but I will say that I would put him more in the bracket of an elitist. But I feel like if it came down to identifying characters, I definitely think, even though she's had her own moments of questionable racism, I feel like Veronica feels more like a character who could fit the crown of being the elitist, whereas Jim Cryer, well, could fit the crown of being a racist. Like, the passive racism, maybe it comes from me watching the game, binging it on BET Plus, like I mentioned, the season 4 review, which has been getting a lot of comments. Thank you all for that. I might be inclined to do my season 5 review as well. The Chardonnay, when Brandy came into the show and she introduced Jason to her friend group and basically explained, see, look, you're light, bright, damn near white, Jason, and you're privileged. So what you need to do is open your eyes, and racism is out there. It's not like we go out there looking for it, but we just see the world for as it is, because we're black people who don't have millions of dollars. We're black people who don't have, tens of thousands of adoring fans and whatnot like you do. So just open your eyes and you'll see racism here and there. And then I remember that episode, Jason was seeing little things from like maybe being accused of shoplifting or, being called a derogatory term by somebody who almost hit him in a parking lot, things like that. So I feel like Jim does give the aura of someone who probably grew up with a family that wasn't too kind towards black people. So you look at how he's treated Hannah, you look at how he treats Celine. I feel like if nothing else, Jim certainly has a bigotry about him, and not just when it comes to black people or people who aren't white. Jim treats a lot of women like shit. I feel like if nothing else, I feel like that the way he treats women is something that I would rank higher. I feel like it's hard to tell. I feel like when it comes to Jim Cryer, there are 3 tiers to his character. I say racist would be number 3 in terms of the lowest I would categorize him in. I would say him being sexist. Is that the right word for him in terms of how he treats women? Like basically like disposable cameras. Like he obviously only cares about women for sex, and if there's a woman who doesn't do anything for him at all, he literally just could not give a damn about them. I think that I would say Jim is definitely sexist, elitist, and then racist. That's how I would categorize him from most to least. Then when it comes to Veronica, I would definitely say elitist first, homophobic. Wait, would homophobia and racism be categorized in the same thing? I don't know. I mean, I feel like it would be, but yeah, it's weird. So let me say, I think Jim has some racist qualities about him, but remember, he was a have-not, and basically, I believe Catherine one time said that uh, Jim's mother was a real B word. Either she said that about, wait a minute, or did she say that about Veronica's father? I mean, Veronica's mother. I forgot. Well, yeah, I think she said that, Jim's mother was a real B. But given that Jim was a have not, and I don't know. We don't know enough about him, but it stands to reason that he probably grew up with a family that didn't really look too fondly towards black people. Not to mention he was, rubbing elbows with the Malones, who once again don't seem to like black people at all. So I feel like when it comes down to it, I think that Jim Cryer is more of an elitist than a racist. But the way John Snyder delivers some of these lines, it's kind of like it was like watching what's his name? Wow, I feel stupid. Leonardo DiCaprio and what was it, Django? What was that movie, Django, where he was using the N word? Was it Django or was it another one? It was the one where he was in there with Samuel L. Jackson. Was it Django? What was Django? Was Django the one with Jamie Foxx? Hang on, Django. I can't find it. But it was the one where Leonardo DiCaprio was like a plantation owner or something. I forgot. But I remember people were like, man, he seemed a bit too comfortable using that N-word. So I think that the doors has been open to the discussion. Let me know what you think. I definitely feel like this scene definitely said a lot about Jim Cryer. But this scene did make me cringe because I'm like, oh, snap. This was giving me memories of Mr. Jim. I feel like Mr. Jim was the epitome of Jim Cryer displaying racist tendencies. This scene wasn't as bad, but it gave me Mr. Jim flashbacks. And as I said earlier in the video, I just remember being so mad about that episode, as well as other fans are too. But with that being said, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Also, another thing to put into perspective, I didn't mean to throw Catherine into the conversation, but just given her openness to be allowing Hannah to be her friend and whatnot, I'm not trying to make excuses for this. All I'm saying is sometimes when it comes down to it, there's a lot of elitism and class separation in regards to financial class and status. So there are a lot of times where if you grew up in certain areas and neighborhoods, or if you are part of a certain family, you're not really going to interact with people from outside of your own race. Like, I know for me, I went to public school, so obviously I mingled with a lot of black and white people, some Hispanics, and maybe a couple of Asians, whatnot. But it wasn't until I went to Liberty University where it was like a huge melting pot. Unfortunately, there were not that many black people, but at the same time, the ones who were there, like, we instantly like hit it off. But you look at Catherine Cryer, I definitely do not think she knew many black people outside of the help. And of course, Veronica basically wanted to latch on to Catherine due to social status, but that was about it. So I just feel like that's another factor to put into play. So yeah, let's keep the conversation civil. And like I said, I felt like I really wanted to look at this video from the angle of focusing more on Jim Cryer and how he's being portrayed by John Snyder, as opposed to certain things that John Snyder has said on social media in real time. So once again, this is not a video that's anti-John Snyder. This is a video about Jim Cryer. Let's keep that in mind. Don't tweet him or anything, saying mean stuff like, you're a racist because I treat. Please, let's not do that. He's just playing a character. albeit pretty damn well, but there we go. So thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Shout out to the patrons over on Patreon. You can join in for as little as $1 a month, or if you just want to go ahead and make a donation to the channel, feel free to do so on PayPal or Cash App. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll talk to you soon.